Hey, what's going on, my friend? This is Darrell, and I got to tell you, my guest today spoke in our Las Vegas executive peer group meeting. She walked in the room and dropped the mic on the very first statement. Her talk today is about branding from the inside out. She gave us a 3-hour workshop that day. Shout out to Catapult Groups here in Las Vegas, Nevada, Brad Mishlove as the founder. And I got to tell you, I thought the class was going to be something that I just didn't want to sit through, not because she wasn't who she was, but because I thought I'd heard it all when it came to branding. Well, my conversation today is going to unpack how she thinks about the value of personal brands, employer brands, and business brands, and how she approaches this and how she learned it, because it's not the way you think. And it's going to be a rich conversation if you're thinking about growing your brand, if you're thinking about how to have deeper connections with your customers, with your team, and with your community. I think you're going to get a lot out of this talk today with my friend Amber Hurdle. Hey, Amber, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm so grateful to be here, and it's so good to see you again.
Absolutely. Yeah. We had a chance to meet probably 4 months ago at our mastermind here in Las Vegas. You were brought in as the speaker of the day to come in with all of your brilliance. So I'm super excited to have a chance to talk with you today.
Well, it's really a privilege because I respect the work that you do, and it's nice to connect with like-minded people.
Likewise. I know we had a couple of conversations during the breaks. A couple things we also had in common. You like baseball. I played baseball. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was very funny how we ended up in that conversation. You're certified in, I don't know what you actually call Sally Hogshead's program.
How to Fascinate.
Mm-hmm. How to Fascinate. I'm sitting there. You started talking about that. I'm like, I know that program, so yeah. There were some commonalities there. So I'm super excited to sit down and talk with you. Plus, I have still in front of me pages of notes from that class. Absolutely bombshell ideas, some breakthrough ideas, because I've never considered myself technically a branding person. And I think what you did for me that day, I don't know about everybody else in the room, but you flipped the dialogue around branding on its head. And as I was taking notes, I sat there thinking, I've never heard anybody talk about branding like this, number one, and this is my kind of talk. And I think we'll unpack a little bit about that today. But before we jump in, where are you joining us from?
So I am now, I was a Nashvilleian for almost 30 years, and now I am coming from Venice, Florida, where I bring the median age way down. Chose to live where people retire and snowbird and go ahead and get in on that action before I'm of age to officially do it.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Average age is 78. I'm not being ageist. I'm legitimately, from a demographic standpoint, the average age is 78 years old, and I'm 43.
Wow. Yeah. Well, you'll get some wisdom from your neighbors. Is that how it works?
I love it. No, I just go to the dog park and I talk to former CEOs of like Pepsi and like GE. And I mean, we get to talk shop and business and marketing strategies while our dogs are playing together. And I'm like just soaking it all in. I love older people. That's my favorite.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Amber, I want to start, and this may be an interesting way to start this because it caught me. It didn't catch me by surprise, but I thought you had a very interesting opening to your talk and at our mastermind. And you made a very interesting point about how you structured that opening. To set the scene for those who weren't there, I think there were 10, 12, 14 of us in the room, all male except one. I think Liz is the only female in the group, female CEO in the group. Would you mind just sharing how you opened that talk and how you got our attention? And I just thought it was fantastic.
So I have to remember now that was it the house story?
So you told us the house story, but I think the house story was a timely event that I don't think you probably use all the time.
No,
but it was the at 16.
The other one. Yes,
okay. Ma'am, that's the one.
Just wanted to be sure.
Okay, I know when you're not ready to speak, it's hard to go to your speaking modality, right?
Yeah, because I did slide that other story in, which is not typical. So the bottom line is I got knocked up at 16, and I was not the girl that was supposed to happen to. I was featured on Channel 4 News at 6 and 10 for a whole week. And the result of that was just being able to talk about Middle Tennessee teenagers who were thought leaders and were making, big impact in their communities and having difficult conversations that maybe parents weren't ready to have with their teenagers. And so they were highlighting it. And I was one of the few people featured in all of Middle Tennessee. So I was a good girl. And then a couple weeks later, I found out I was with child. So like, boo, fall from grace. And, to just speed up the story, and why I tell that is because I believe that so much of who I am and what I learned and the learned behaviors that I had to create that were outside of the scope of my natural personality all came from being a teen mom. And the other thing that is so critically important to my career and the businesses that I own is that I learned about branding by being a teen mom. So the recap on that is, because I was a teen mom and because I was so desperate and because I had to get people to show me favor, even without the college degree, because I had to drop out and all the other things, and with the stigma and all of that, I had to learn how to define my own value so I wasn't pulled down by the opinions of others. And then I had to learn how to position that value so I could get an extra shift at the Applebee's, so I could get the job that required a college degree, and yet they still gave it to me. I had to figure out like what's unique about me where I can position that and get the favor that I need to survive. And so now I do that with personal brands, business brands, and employer brands. And it just comes easy to me because it comes from like a really gut level.
Well, nothing. That still just moves me when I hear it now, because I remember how you again, I can't put it exactly in those words, but it was like, it wasn't the knocked up at 16 pieces, how you brought the survival instinct of, okay, this is what happened to me, but this isn't going to define me and then make me beneath anything else because I had to drop out of school, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought that story of tenacity was I said that was instantly, I was like, this is a mind shift story. 100%. It's 100%. Right. I look for people that understand, if you tell me you haven't if you haven't been through anything, it's hard for me and you to be friends. Like, you know what I mean? And we all go through things, but sometimes we don't want to talk about those things. And you opened up the talk. It was fairly early in the talk, and you got our attention like ASAP, and I used to say, I sometimes tell people that, at age 30, I was living on my grandmother's couch. And again, it wasn't, but it's one of those things where I want people to come out of the clouds because I got introduced this way.
Yeah.
Right. They introduced me and said all these things, but oh no. At 30, I was sleeping on my grandmother's couch with 2 duffel bags of clothes. That's it.
Oh, but Darrell and
I mean?
Amber are successful. And so
right.
it's always been easy. And we just woke up and overnight success.
Yeah.
No work, no grit required. And I'm like you, Darrell. And maybe that's why we connected so quickly. It's like, if you don't have grit, I don't know what to do with you. I can coach you,
Right.
but I'm going to also ask you to find your grit and
elevate.
Yeah.
That was one thing about you. I listen, we're going to get into the branding stuff, but I want people to understand that you walked in that room, you took control of that room. But then when you tied it all back into the track that you've had to run on, if I'm not mistaken, you worked in an industry that was mostly male. Do I recall a period of time when you were in leadership where it was mostly male, or am I just completely, have I just lost my mind?
No, you're right. And then I do also work in like the construction industry
That's the
and,
one.
real estate and land. And,
That's the one.
There's a lot more women popping up in those industries now, but they're male dominated.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So that was a very interesting. So talk about this idea of learning branding because you were a teen mom. I think that's super interesting.
Yeah. The challenge for me was at one point I worked 4 jobs. And I had to, otherwise I couldn't afford everything. I didn't have a lot of help. My parents were very emotionally supportive, but they were raising their own kids. Like they couldn't financially contribute to mine too. And so, and I didn't have, someone involved after a while. And so it was the Amber show, and I started noticing that I would get favor. Like, for an example, I joke about picking up an extra shift at the Applebee's, but I lived 45 minutes to an hour away from an Applebee's that I used to work at. But if I needed extra cash, the manager, the GM, allowed me to just show up in my uniform and would give me tables. Like, I didn't have to be on the schedule. It kind of torqued everybody else off that I could just come in and get a great section because I was who I am. And so there was things like that that kept happening in my career, which was a collection of jobs. And I started wondering, like, why do I get favor and this other person who's been here longer or is older than me or does have a degree, like, why me? And so I started like really listening. And this is important when you're branding. Like, we're like, well, I like pink, so we should use pink. Well, if your audience doesn't like pink, that's the wrong color for your brand. So like, you have to listen. And I heard, or through behaviors or, whatever they were giving me as opportunity, what I was hearing was that I have a very strong work ethic. Thanks, mom and dad. So very strong work ethic. I'm really good with people because I'm very relational. I'm curious about people. I'm interested in people. I'm not judgmental, and I'm not patting myself on the back. But when you're interacting with the public or you're having to deal with fellow employees, those weren't hurdles. That's my last name, but weren't hurdles I had to jump at the time. It just came easily to me. So they loved putting me on the floor because the average price of the check would go up. Yeah. And so there was so learned that I have a good work ethic, and that's recognized. Learn that people understand that I'm good with people and I like people. And the third part, which I didn't really understand at the time, but I have a very strategic mind. Like, strategy is one of my strengths finders. And so I was always looking to my boss and seeing, how can I just jump in and help? Like, how can I just take this off their plate because they're snowed and this person's not doing their job? So just give it to me and I'll get it done, which is my nature. But at the time, you're a business owner. I'm a business owner. When people take stuff off our plate and just get it done, does that not you're my person, right?
You stand out.
Yeah.
My executive assistant, perfect example. My executive assistant, she got hired as an executive assistant, and there's a list of criteria and things of that were. And then when we had some changes operationally going on in the business with management and leadership, she literally said, and some people say this, let me know how I can help. And I'm like, great. Sometimes they say it, but they don't know what it means. And then she eventually just started doing things.
Yeah.
Like noticing. She just noticed and did it. And I say, hey, I don't know if you mind, but I just did this for you. I'm like, so yeah, to your point, you definitely get noticed. And it's very interesting because your work ethic, like, no one had to, well, your parents taught you about work ethic, but it's still up to you to decide how to display that work ethic in the marketplace. And it's very interesting because it's not doing 100% more than the next person. In general, I found maybe you can 10, 15, 20% more than the other person. And that is huge because everybody just wants to do average.
But when everybody else is walking past the front door and there's fingerprints everywhere and they've been there since the morning, and the shift before the night before should have handled that, and they're still there, I can't stand to walk past it. I don't want to look at it. So I'm just going to take 2 seconds of my time and wipe that down. And managers notice that. Oh, Amber cares what that guest experience is, or wherever I was, fitness center, whatever. And so I had no clue what personal branding was at the time. Nobody used that term. You had a professional reputation, but I did immediately understand that how I'm perceived by somebody else impacted my success. It opened up doors. And so what I say now is, when you have a strong personal brand, you attract the right people and the right opportunities to your life. And because my personal brand, and I just kind of hung my reputation on these 3 key areas, and I was always looking to show, like, I have a good work ethic, I'm really good with people, and I'm going to take things off your plate, and I'm going to be proactive. Like, if I keep doing that, I keep getting rewarded, and it changed my career. It opened up so many opportunities. It gave me mentors of people like, why are you interested in me? Why are you taking your time to ensure that I have what I need to be successful? And now I see me doing it with other people. I'm like, ooh, those are things I see about you that I like because I do those things. Let me mentor you. Let me just
100%.
help you out. Yeah.
100%. It's so funny because it's not so much what was on your resume back in those days, right? It wasn't what was on those. So people get all caught up about the things, but it's the little things. Wiping the windows. I've worked at Taco Bell. I don't know if we talked about that, but I was a fry cook at Taco Bell. 16.
Nice.
Fry cook at Taco
Subway.
Bell.
That was my first job.
Okay, Subway, right? I mean, you're talking about Olive Garden or wherever it was. Was it Applebee's?
Applebee's.
Um, but yeah, so the funny thing was I went from fry cook to assistant manager in a year and a half. I didn't even sign up for that.
Yeah.
And it was similar types of things. Like they gave me a 5 hour a day fry cook job. I guess I'm finishing at 3.5. And I'm like, you need any help in the kitchen? Oh yeah, Darrell, you can help in the kitchen. Before you know it, oh, you need any help in the lobby? I'll go help out in the lobby. So I'm done with my job. And they're looking at me like, I'm just assuming this is what they said. First of all, it's a 5 hour job. How do you get it done in 3?
Yes.
I didn't even think I was doing anything. I was just trying to be as efficient as I possibly could.
Because that's
Right?
just how you're wired.
It's just wiring. My dad said, do the best job you can. My parents taught me, do the best job you can, put your best foot forward. They didn't say these words, but it was like, okay, they told me it took 5 hours. I don't want to stand over this heat for 5 hours. I'm sitting in this polyester suit.
I'll tell you, I don't know what kind of, can we say the donkey word on this show? My mom would, if I didn't clean the kitchen correctly to her expectation, she
Yeah, you
would
can cuss.
walk up the stairs. Okay.
Yeah,
It's
you
a
can cuss.
it's a light word, but she
Yeah.
would walk up the stairs. I remember hearing her wedding ring hit the banister as she was walking up, and I was
Ooh.
like, I didn't do
Uh-oh.
something right in that kitchen. And she
Uh-oh.
would get me up out of that bed, and I would have to go downstairs and I would fix it. That was my mom. My dad was way more like chill, but my mom's also a chef, so like the kitchen is
Her
her
domain.
like
It's her
so.
domain.
And I'm so appreciative she was that way because I don't cut corners. But my dad would say, don't half-ass anything. Like, just if you're going to half-ass it, don't do it at all. And he's a drummer, and a culinarian and a drummer put kids through private school. So very creative types. And, the result of that was just a really hardworking kid,
Yeah.
creative.
Yeah.
I don't want to follow
Well,
your rules, but I'm going to work my butt off for you.
well, it paid off. Let's fast forward. Let's
Okay.
fast forward. So you own numerous companies today. Tell the audience a little bit about your business portfolio, and
Sure.
then let's unpack where you spend a lot of your time, and let's really get into some practical branding application. Because again, you dropped some. I ain't gonna lie to you. I think I even told Brad. I might have even told you when I was coming to that event. Brad always has 8 speakers out of our 12 meetings a year, and I look at you prejudge the topic, right? Like, I'm talking
You're
talk
like,
about
who's this
branding all
chick
day.
from Tennessee coming branding?
It's not about it really had nothing to do with you. It's everybody prejudges a topic. Like, I don't know if I want to sit in this seminar today, blah, blah, blah. So let's, first of all, tell us about your business portfolio. What are you up to with your brands? So everybody can get some context.
Okay. So Amber Hurdle Consulting is my home. So it's Amber Hurdle. I'm typically an opening keynote speaker. Of course, I do speak to CEO peer groups as well. And so that's the home of what I would consider my thought leadership. So keynote speaking, my books, I have the Bombshell Business Podcast, which I have all listeners, but it is really for female entrepreneurs and then everybody else who wants to come hang out. And that's where I take on key branding projects. Like I'll do a brand guide day. I walked y'all through that experience, and any special coaching that I want to do. So that's the home of Amber. I have a team. And then I have Employer Brand Central, which is 100% focused on the start to finish employee experience. So we help companies attract and retain top talent, not good enough talent, but top talent by enhancing their brand through the employee experience. And we do that in 4 categories. The attract phase, which is all about talent acquisition, recruiting, career pages, the whole process. What does that feel like? Does it feel good? Are you making it exciting to me to want to come to work for you? Then there's the onboarding phase. So it's attract, onboard. Don't catfish your candidates. when they come on board, make sure that you're giving them what they promised in terms of training and acclimating them in the first 90 days. Engage is the third part, where we talk about recognition, communication, professional development, team camaraderie, community involvement, all those things that make it feel like a home that you can come to, that like my values match your values and I'm happy to do business and have a sense of belonging here. And people think employer branding is just about recruiting, and I'm like, if you can't sell it inside, you sure can't sell it outside, like Stan Slap says. And then there's the off-board section. So we do attract, onboard, engage, and offboard. And offboarding is so much more than give me my keys back and we're locking you out of the email system.
Right.
And we won't unpack all of that here, but I'll just drop that. And
right.
It's a whole other
Not
podcast.
No,
Yeah.
I get it. I want to jump into your brain for a little bit
Sure.
and pick out a few of the nuggets that just were they were just pivotal in how I listened to the day go through. And I walked away with one was just very congruent with the way I think about copywriting and some of the work that you say you don't like to do in terms of digital, even though you know how to do it. But I want to start with this idea that the CEO, not the marketing team, not the what do you call it, COO integrator. You believe the CEO is responsible for the brand experience. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, the CEO casts a vision, gets everyone excited, is really the buck stops with the CEO. And the COO integrator role certainly executes the day to day, but people look to the CEO for the vision. And what is a business if not your brand reputation? When we think about businesses, we don't think about, I wonder if their operational efficiencies are in line. We think about, how do I feel about this brand? What is my emotional connection or not to this brand? And so it's incumbent upon the CEO to take that very seriously and make it very clear to everyone how they can contribute to what people are saying about the business. And to me, so I say in Employer Brand Central, we're fully focused on the employer brand, but an employer brand is made up of lots of personal brands.
I love it.
And it starts with the CEO. What are people saying about the CEO when he's not in the room? And are all of your leaders, whether it's director level, mid-level, frontline, hourly employee, whoever you are, what is their perception? There is a reason why Glassdoor has a CEO rating.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because it starts at the top.
That. Okay.
If I go to work for a company and the CEO is a tool, what do you think the whole experience of working there is going to be like? It's a trickle-down effect.
Yeah. Another thing you said that it fits so well into how we think about, converting cold eyeballs in digital, social, or Google, whatever the case is, from an ad, a blog post, whatever. One of the core concepts that has lived in the world of copywriting is your copy, your message needs to be a hell yes or a hell no. And the key phrase that I wrote this down, and I said, I like how she thinks, because you said your brand needs to be a hell yes or a hell no. The key phrase at the end was immediately. Talk a little bit about that.
When you land on a website, you should be able to say, yes, this is for me, or no, this is not for me. And your copy should be so compelling. And what happens, especially with not younger in youth, but younger entrepreneurs in terms of business longevity, is they haven't learned the hard way that they don't want everybody. So
they're afraid to
like
say
that
no.
comes with some skin knees. Afraid to say no. You're afraid to leave somebody out. Like, oh, I might, what if I had that one client 5 years ago who fits in this category and I don't want to tell them no. And the thing of it is if you get really specific about who your brand is for and your imagery and the words that you use and your brand messaging, and that all supports what that particular ideal customer desires, they're going to have an emotional connection to. It's like, oh, this company's made for me. And if not, they're going to be like, hard pass. There are people I know for a fact who have landed on my website and they were like, oh, it's so nice to meet you. When I landed on your website, I didn't think I'd want to have anything to do with you. And I'm like, great, thank you. That's what because we wouldn't work well together. I'm glad that you like me as a
Right.
human being, but you are not my ideal customer. I would
Not my
frustrate
cup.
you and I'd want to strangle you. So it worked
Yeah.
out that we don't have to be that.
Yeah. No, it's so good, right? And I think to your point about younger entrepreneurs by way of experience, I use that same phrase. One of the most powerful words in business growth is no.
No.
No, to keep your attention on the things that matter. No, this isn't the right fit by way of team member. No, this isn't the right character trait I want in the. I mean, all of those things. So,
And
but it
it's
is. Mhm.
sorry, it's important to note that if you do a really good job of emotionally connecting with your customers, then they recommend you at the rate of 71%. 71%. So let's just say that you attract somebody that's like a perfect fit. They spend money with you, they refer people to you, they do repeat business with you, they're easy to work with, they trust you, whatever that looks like, they are just the right fit for you. You wish you could have 100 just like them. They're going to recommend their friends. Also, if you get the wrong fit and they're happy with you and they like your services, but maybe they're just a big PIA, or and I'm not trying to make anybody sound bad, but like there's just like this is how we do business, and they're like, yeah, but we want you to tweak it this way to fit our needs, and that's just not, it just doesn't work. So now you're working with a customer who's happy with you, that you're bending your processes for, that's taking twice the amount of effort to work with them, and then they tell all their friends at the rate of 71%. And now you have a whole business full of people that you don't really want to do business with.
Oh my
Yeah,
geez. Oh, you just did a master class in 38 seconds. Holy smoke. So, I mean, this goes back to business process, having systems, having things you stand for, right? Remember the old phrase, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything.
that's right.
And you're saying essentially your brand has to stand for not just the colors. By the way, that was one of the things I want to come back to, which is how you brought up colors and logos and all that stuff at the tail end of a 3 hour workshop. I thought it was fantastic because that's actually what I thought I was going to hear on the front end. But you just said, listen, we've got to have our structure, our ideals, and be really disciplined to the intake process to say, is this customer a good fit? Not a good fit. Is this team member a good fit? Not a good fit. Do they fit what we're trying to do? You said something. I'm just trying to go back on it, but it had to do with how you work with your virtual team in your brand, because I think you said most of your team's virtual,
Mhm.
and I think it had to do with a level of freedom because you don't
Mhm.
micromanage, but I think it had to do with the culture of your brand. And I thought it was very interesting. And I don't know, I'm trying to get to exactly what you said, but
I
you
think
gave
I
a very
remember. So I, as a small business owner, I will never be able to, I will never say never, but it's unlikely that I'm ever going to be able to meet the the benefits packages and all the perks that larger businesses get. And so if I want top talent, what do I have to offer as little
that's
old
what it
Amber
was.
Hurdle? And so the one of the values in Amber Hurdle Consulting is family. I built my business because I mean, I'm an empty nester now, but I built my business so that I could be more involved as a mom and be able to go to soccer games and not miss award ceremonies and go on overnight trips. So family was really important to me. If I built my company so I can have that freedom and flexibility, then don't I want to also offer that to my team? Now you can
Mm,
overdo that, and there's been times where I've overdone it, but for the most part, this is how it works, and it works well. If you need to take your kid to the doctor, you don't have to ask permission or get a form signed. You just let me know, I'm going to be out this morning taking little Johnny to the doctor. And I am going to assume and trust, because it's the culture, that you're not missing meetings, that if there's something that you committed to me or another team member, that that's going to be to that person by the time that they need it. Because in exchange for me not micromanaging you around where you're spending your time, you're going to make sure that your obligations are met. And so
right.
it's a mutual trust and understanding. And
Yeah.
so if you want flexibility, then you can come work for me. And if you want to make sure that you can make it to a softball tournament or a baseball tournament, then that's something I can offer you that maybe a bigger company that wants you in the office and sitting here and signing a form and taking a PTO day and all that kind of stuff. It's just the culture. And so your
Yes.
culture is part of your brand. In fact, your culture is the birthplace of your brand, because you're putting, a flag down saying, this is what we value. Do you value these things? Great. You're a perfect fit for us. If not, you should probably go work somewhere else, because you're going to self-identify as not vibing with us. And
Right.
you have your mission. Are you excited about why we're in business? Are you excited about where we're going, where our vision is? And oh, by the way, these are our service basics. We have to do these things in order to be us. So Gaylord Hotels is look everybody in the eyes and smile if they're within 10 feet of you. Speak first and last if they're within 5 feet of you. Hi, Miss Hurdle. How's your day going today? Oh, it's fantastic. Is there anything I can help you with? Actually, I'm totally lost. How do I get to the Delta Atrium? Oh, here's a clever thing about Gaylord Hotels. You can look down at the carpet, and the color of the carpet is going to let you know exactly what atrium you're in. So right now you're in the Magnolia. And so you're going to go through the garden. And then when you see the red, then you're in the Delta. Oh, thank you so much. Is there anything else I can do for you? Nope, that does it. Have a nice day, Miss Hurdle. That exchange makes a luxury hotel. You're not going to get that. No offense to get Courtyard Marriott. I love me some Courtyard Marriott, but you're not going to get that at a Courtyard Marriott. Their
Right,
service basics are going to be different. Yeah.
They'll point.
You're not paying for that.
Yeah. They'll point.
Yeah. If they even acknowledge your existence at this stage in the game.
Right.
And again, no. Yeah.
No, but it's true. But, I think sometimes we think about brand, and I love that you just gave that distinct example. And it was super interesting how you spoke about the standards that you have in your organization as part of the brand, the culture inside the organization as part of the brand. These are things that I actually believe in as well. So again, even before we had a virtual team, I'm like you. I didn't grow up in corporate America. So all of these policies and asking for permission to do what you have to do as a parent just didn't make sense to me. Like I had children who lived 1,300 miles away from me. I knew corporate America wouldn't understand that. So that's why I became an entrepreneur. So I don't need permission. You don't need permission from me to take your child to the doctor if they've got to go to the doctor. So I'm with you. And that's what another one of those things that I thought was really resonant with how I thought about things, the non-micromanagement. All of these things are part of the brand experience and part of that, right?
Yeah. And if I, as an employee, feel like I'm taken care of, guess what I'm going to do for your customers?
Get it done.
They've got my back here. You care about me as a human being. You see me and my unique gifts and how they contribute to the bigger goals and where I fit into things. Like you see me. Oh, I'm showing up hard for you. Because a person who half-asses things isn't going to show, they're not going to sign up to go to that party. They want to go where nobody cares, nobody's paying attention to them. They can phone it all in, and good for them. Go find that company. But if you want to have a strong brand, and I know I use this example, and I want to recognize that not everybody loves this brand, but the fact of the matter is it's a powerful brand. And so I'm going to use it. You can agree or disagree with what I say, dear listeners. Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A literally has to employ off-duty police officers to control the traffic at lunch at a Chick-fil-A, while McDonald's across the street has zero line. Why do people go to Chick-fil-A? Examples. Could I have an extra Polynesian sauce? It's my pleasure. 100% of the time, you are going to hear, it's my pleasure. You're not going to hear, yeah. You're going to hear, it's my pleasure. Also, the reason why the line moves so swiftly is because there are people standing out in the sun with iPads taking your order. And before you even get to the delivery window, somebody is walking out with your bag. Miss Amber? Yes. Here's your list, everything. Is there anything else I can get for you? You haven't even made it to that. You can just pull out of the line and drive off because they are on it. Like they should run the post office. They should run the country. Like seriously, just based on their logistics. And the food is fresh and there's so many things. And if you get into the values and like having Sunday off and recognizing that families need time together, there's so many things that have nothing to do with chicken.
And then And let's not forget that they make more per restaurant being closed. Not more per, but they're in the top, and they're closed on Sunday. Let's not ignore the the
The
business economics
economics.
of having cultural values. Like them or don't
Yeah.
like them. I remember Chick-fil-A. I didn't hear a lot about it. My sons grew up in Texas, and so I was back and forth to Texas a lot. And I was always traveling back on a Sunday because I had to be back. I was always traveling back on a Sunday. Could never try Chick-fil-A for years. For years, I was like, I heard of it. Never. They were always closed in the airport when I got to the airport on Sunday to come back home.
Yeah.
Didn't understand it. Didn't get into it. It didn't dawn on me why. They opened up in Vegas, and I don't know how many years now, maybe 5. They opened
Yeah.
up in Vegas about 5 years ago. The grandkids and my younger daughter loves them. I still really didn't care, didn't get it. And sure enough, one day I go over there on a Sunday. Son of a gun, they were closed.
Still.
And I'm like, what the hell's up with this company, man? So I started doing some research, and then I started saying, oh, okay. And I started looking at where they ranked nationally amongst fast food companies. And I realized, I think I just read a report that they're in the top 5 of desired fast food brands. They're not the oldest. So anyway, interesting
And
tidbit.
Zaxby's, I have friends who own franchises in Zaxby's. Zaxby's is delicious. I love Zaxby's. They're I don't know if they still do this, but they would never freeze their chicken. And so you always knew you were getting fresh chicken. And there's nothing wrong with Zaxby's, but Chick-fil-A outranks them so much because they're so intense on really living out their values and like the whole customer experience. And just as an aside, I've spoken at Chick-fil-A before, and I've met several of their executives and several people, including members of the LGBTQ community, who worked there and loved it and were always very complimentary. So I'm just going to put that out there again as information. I'm a huge ally in the LGBTQ plus community. Huge. So it's, you have to do your homework. You have to really know and not just listen to the sound bites.
Yeah, because if you listen to the sound bites, what you just said would seem like a conflict to what people read on the media. So that's with every story, right? So every story gets spun different ways. There's the what happened, what they said happened, what the other person thought happened, and then the truth, right? So anyway, Amber, you've got something new coming up, a new offering in the world of branding, and I'd love for you to share that with our group. Before you do, though, I want to make sure that people know. First of all, we've just scratched the surface. If you're if you're a woman entrepreneur, tell us the name again of your podcast that is largely focused. I remember you said that at the group, and there's like 15 dudes and one lady in the room, one woman in the room. What's the name of your show again?
So it's called the Bombshell Business Podcast. I redefine the term bombshell to mean bold, brave, unwaveringly confident woman. Because to me, a bombshell walks in a room and turns heads, not because she's strikingly gorgeous, but because she walks in with a refreshing confidence. A bombshell likes who she is. She doesn't need your permission to be herself. We're the kind of woman that's like, if I'm too much, go find less. Like, I'm good with me. And so that's a really hard position to be in as a female entrepreneur, as a female leader, because we get put in the B box all the time. I personally bedazzled my bitch box, and I have a cute little ladder that I just keep climbing up out of it. And it's because, if you have boundaries, if you have expectations of equity, like there's just, it's a weird world that we live in. So again, like there's so many different discrete minorities that can speak to this. This is the world that I chose to champion. And so that's a great resource we have. It's not me. It's my amazing guests. We've had everyone from the former Secretary of the Air Force, marketing mindsets, spiritual, everything in between. So if you're a female entrepreneur, you can check that out. Otherwise, you can go to amberhurdle.com and find all of my social media. You can find Employer Brand Central. You can find everything from that hub.
Yeah. 2 questions. And I definitely want to come back to your new project that you have coming up for those that are listening that it could be really, really relevant for. But before I do, in the way you think about it, I think we've almost unpacked it, but 2 things actually. Let me go to this one first. You said that 71% will refer if they are emotionally connected to your brand. Do you have any tips, quick tips, things that are tactical that someone could walk away from? I'm curious myself. How do you define emotionally connected, and what 2 or 3 things could we be thinking about that could deepen our emotional connection with our customers?
So, first and foremost, you have to know your customer. And so that requires data. And, there's a tremendous amount of money. I think it's, let me find my, yeah, $28.6 billion spent annually on market research. So every time you scan your grocery card or, whatever. So you need to do the work to understand your customer. You can do that through Facebook data, Twitter data, Instagram data, LinkedIn data, and kind of get like the demographics down and the age. And then you can start looking at, well, how do I speak to this demographic and what matters to them and what part of the country are they in and what does that messaging sound like? And so you're speaking to them in an emotionally driven way. Example, Darrell, you and I are Gen X, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're the MTV generation. We are very entrepreneurial in nature. We don't like to be told. We don't trust anyone. We watched Enron go down. The Russians were coming. Like there was, full circle, right? So there are things that we experienced. AIDS came out. We were the first generation to really deal with divorce. So we have all of these life experiences as a collective that have shaped how we do business and where we spend our money. And so if you know that you have Gen Xers, then at this point, like I just did a post on LinkedIn yesterday where I literally quoted Sir Mix-a-Lot. Okay. I know I can get away with that because the majority of the CEO, founders, presidents, if you look at my analytics on LinkedIn, that's who they are. And I also know that they're typically Gen X because boomers have retired. And even the older millennials who are taking over those positions, they like them some 90s rap too.
Of course they
So,
did, because they grew up in the house.
correct,
That's just
exactly.
like I love some Marvin Gaye and some Earth, Wind and Fire, but they weren't my
Same.
people. They weren't my people, but that's what
There
my
are
people listen
parents.
to. That's right.
That's right. Yep.
That's
And
right.
my son can quote Tupac for days and days, and he is
Yeah.
almost 21. So if you know who your customer is, only then can you emotionally connect with them. So that is
Mm.
things like, okay, Amber did a post with a 90s rap song in it and talked about that. So people are like, oh, she likes 90s rap. I like 90s rap. I think I can jive with Amber. And then there's also things just like how you position your products. And again, my best friend is gay. I'm not like I have an unusual number of friends and people really important to me in the LGBTQ plus community, but we have to look at Budweiser. Budweiser made a choice that really blew up in their face because they did not speak to their core audience. They did not emotionally connect with their audience, and it did the exact opposite. Whereas a
Mm.
brand like that could have, I would hope, reached that audience by easing that into their campaigns where we can
Mm.
celebrate people who might not think and look like us, but the way that they went about it was against their core audience, and so now their stock has gone down, like the sales have gone down, they're in crisis. So
Wow.
when I say emotionally connect, it's not like we're going to hold hands and sing kumbaya together. It's, are you speaking to me in a way that makes me feel like if I give you my money, that there is no sacrifice in that. I'm
Mm.
giving you my money for you to solve a problem, whether that's beer or chicken or, anything. And then if I give that to you, am I going to feel good about it? Because the world that we live in now, especially post pandemic, is a lot more aware. And for example, I would never support anything that was discriminatory. I just wouldn't. And that's not my bag. I'm not going to support anything that's going to backpedal on a stance that they take. I'm not going to support anyone that talks out of both sides of their mouth. And so you have to think about how many times have you heard, oh, I'm boycotting Target? Like, great. I will shop there twice as much for,
Mm.
to make up for you. And so, like, whatever you want to support is where your dollars are going to vote.
Mm.
That's what business is now. It's not just like, oh, can I have a sandwich? There's so much more attached to that. So if you're
Yeah.
not thinking of that and you don't have the budget to like really dive deep into data and you want more than just your social media, then call up your favorite customers. Just call them up. Hey, this is Amber. Um, Narelle Hooker in Oregon. you're one of my favorite customers. And if I could have 10 other customers just like you, I would be so delighted. So can I ask you some questions so I can understand why you chose to work with me and the value that I bring to your company? And also, can you just tell me a little bit about your life? Obviously, I know everything there is to know about Narelle for the most part because she is one of my favorite customers.
Mm,
But
mm.
I could pick up the phone and find out those things. And now when I'm targeting and I'm advertising, I'm marketing and I'm doing newsletters, I'm going to think about, oh, Narelle has a dog, or Narelle has 2 adult children. Narelle's been married for a bajillion years. So I'm going to start talking in sound bites, in stories that are going to emotionally connect with the Narelles of the world.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That was a really
That's
long answer. I'm sorry.
but it's not. It's not. It's actually just, we talk about in our world, before we can do marketing well online, we must understand not just a buyer demographics, but the psychographics.
Yes.
And what you're digging into is the psychographics. It's the behaviors, it's the interest, it's the traits, it's the what catches their attention. It's what doesn't catch their attention and what moves them emotionally. And so all you did was you reaffirmed that branding and marketing are tied together when they're thought
Very
of in
much.
that relationship. It's not just logos and colors and emotional psychology. That all matters too. And I know you talk about that, but it was so refreshing to sit in your workshop and listen to you talk about logos and fonts last. That
Yes.
was the ticket, because it came up like on slide. It came up at the 7th part of your brand guide presentation, and I was like, okay, finally someone who, I mean, and I'm not saying no branding expert ever, but it was just refreshing. So I love your approach to it. I love that I love the defining moment. Define who you are, who you're not, who you're attracting, who you're not. And all of that really fits super well into it.
But if you have a solid brand with solid brand messaging, what is your personality? What is the tone? Well, what does the tone even mean? What does that look like? Like
Mm-hmm.
where are we going to apply this? If you have all of that, then marketing becomes so much easier because
100%.
you've got the Bible to go back to and say, like, this is the constitution of this company and this is the tone we're going to have and these are
Yeah.
the stories that we're going to tell. And the reality is we don't illustrate books and then come up with a story. We
Mm.
write the story and then we illustrate it. And so
Yes.
people start businesses and they're like, I need a logo and what fonts and colors should I use? And I'm not saying those things are insignificant. I'm just saying, like, whoa, 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 your brand is an energy. Your brand is an experience. Your brand creates emotional connection. Once you figure that out and who you're targeting and what your story is and why would people choose you over somebody else? What is your key differentiator? Then you can say, all right, how are we going to dress this up? Well, these people I think would really love blue. And this is a more modern, younger audience. So I'm not going to have a serifed font, which is more luxury and more high end or more formal. I'm going to pick something that's more digital and more modern looking. And
Mm.
so, with that in mind, now I can create the picture to support the messaging, not the
Mm.
other way around.
I love it. I love it. Tell everyone about your program coming up,
Yeah.
and then we'll wrap things up.
So, Employer Brand Central has been an agency fully focused on done for you services, everything from career sites. This is Opry Entertainment. If you know the Ryman or Grand Ole Opry,
Mm.
the ACL Live, we did a custom leadership program for them. So anything like that, we've already done. But what really breaks my heart, because I am a small business owner myself, is that this kind of stuff isn't as accessible to small business owners, and it feels like this big scary thing. So I'm like, all right, how can we do this a lot less expensive and still have an impact and still teach people how to do this? So we created a subscription model. We're rolling out the Employer Brand Central Hub, and for a very low monthly fee, you have access to tools, templates, and training. We do white glove onboarding, so we're going to sit with your founder, CEO, whoever, because it starts at the top, and if you don't want to do that, you don't get to work with us. I'm sorry. And so it's just what it is. Velvet rope. You have to. We can't map a people strategy to a business strategy if we can't hear what the business strategy is. And typically that's not your HR person's role.
Mm.
So we will start with the CEO. figure out what are you trying to accomplish in the next 3 years of the business. And you don't have to give us numbers or, specifics, but just in general, we will figure out where you currently are. We will map out what your strategies should be so that you now know how to get into the hub. We will then meet with your HR team, marketing, whoever's in charge of that, whoever's blocking and tackling. They will get into the hub. They will pull all the different resources. And then we have office hours. So if you have a question, you have answers. You'll have a customer success manager. You will have quarterly training, virtual training that all of your leaders can log into. So you don't have to fly somebody out for thousands of dollars. You can just log in and it's part of your very affordable monthly membership. So that's something that I've been passionate about for a year. And we've slowly been building this library of resources, and then we'll add to it. So if it is Pride Month, then we're going to give you a Pride toolbox like a month and a half before. If it's Indigenous people, we're going to help you with that. If it's Earth Day, we're going to give you something for that. So it's a no-brainer and you can just do it. And your person who's really trying to keep things fair, square, and legal isn't trying to like come up with party ideas and, ways that you can contribute to your community and how to recognize the things that are going on in society around you. We'll just do it for you.
Awesome. Really, really appreciate you creating that toolkit, that toolbox. That a community is really what it is. Our agency is no different. Our agency is out of reach for a lot of businesses, even middle and upsized businesses because of all the dynamics with marketing. But really appreciate you putting that together. Where can people learn more about that or be in touch with you if this seems like a good fit for them, or any of the other projects, whether it's personal consulting, the main Employer Brand Central work, or this new membership?
If you are interested in me speaking, or if you want to work with me personally and it is not astronomical, on your brand and creating a brand guide so that you have that tool, or if you are interested in coaching with me specifically, that's amberhurdle.com. If you need done for you services for your employer brand or employee experience and culture, or you want to look at the hub as an option for your small to mid-sized business, then that's employerbrandcentral.com. And you can find all of the social media and everything on both of those websites. And with Employer Brand Central, we also have trainers, we have coaches, we have consultants. So you will probably not get me unless you want me specifically, then we can have that conversation. I oversee everything like you do, but if I was in all the details all the time, I wouldn't sleep. So
100%. And let me just say, her energy when she takes over the room, when she starts that meeting, let me tell you something, that there was energy for a solid 3 hours in that half day seminar program that we went through. So Amber, I want to thank you for the work that you're doing, the journey that you've been on, right? Because you could have made different decisions when you were 16 and knocked up, and it could have been a completely different conversation today at 43. And we may not have ever met. So I want to honor you for those decisions, those difficult decisions, working 4 jobs, at some point deciding that starting a business was what you were going to do, and building this journey of connecting your personal life to what I think became your business superpower. And I honor that, as that story, that journey, the thousands of decisions that you've had to make the last 20 something years, that probably we get to talk about all the cool stuff here, couple little down stories, but entrepreneurship is thousands and thousands of decisions. Some go well, some don't go well, some take years to come out of. But I just want to salute you as an entrepreneur, and for really just coming back into the world and saying, hey, we got something for you. And if you're this person, this bombshell concept, you're like, hey, this is how we roll. If you want to be a part of this community, I got you. So thank you for all that work.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for seeing me.
I see you. Thank you so much. So listen, listeners, if you have enjoyed today's show, be sure to check out the description where you're listening to this particular podcast, or head over to the show notes and check out what she's doing. Again, a lot of branding people talk a lot of things about branding, but again, she had a very, very distinct concept that blew my mind. I've been an entrepreneur for 30 years, and I'd never heard a branding talk anywhere close to this in all of my years. So be sure to connect with Amber if any of her offerings seem to make sense for you. At the very least, if you're a female woman entrepreneur, you want to go into that bombshell community, check out our podcast. And Amber, hopefully I can have you back again sometime in the future.
Oh, we're staying connected. You didn't know that you had a friend for life.
Sounds good. Well, listen, everyone, if you're listening to the show and you enjoyed today's episode, I'd invite you to hit the follow or subscribe button wherever you're listening to the show so you never miss an episode. If this episode touched you in a way that you think would matter to someone else, we'd encourage you to share this episode with someone else. And if for whatever reason you are an entrepreneur looking for some assistance and a community to help you market, grow, and scale through these really interesting times as an entrepreneur, I would ask you and invite you to head over to growthdrivenentrepreneur.com. Join our community there. And if you have never seen my face or heard my voice before, I'm Darrell Evans. I'm your host, and I'll see you again next time. Take care. Hit the subscribe button so you can become a part of the MindShift community. We'll help you shift your mind so you can shift your results.